I think about this in terms of like people that struggle with addiction.
Sure.
They need to make a quick 180-degree turn, but
Yeah.
they're going through a process with medical professionals, probably medication to assist them. Like there's a ton. There's a whole army of people helping with that.
Sure.
So why do we think that we can make a 180-degree turnaround on our own? Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Money Therapy, and we're glad you're with us today. My name is Brandon Chasteen, and I'm one of your hosts. The other is
Bill McGill.
And we own a financial practice, Harpeth Wealth Partners. That's our logo up there. We'd love for you to visit our website, check us out. But we also love getting to bring you actionable, thoughtful, thought-provoking guidance and education on this podcast, and hopefully just really get you thinking about your finances in a different way, because a lot of times when we're trying to get things together, when we're thinking about our finances, we're thinking about just the money side of the finances. And if you've ever tried to, master a budget or, just tried to fix a financial problem in your life, you've thought about the money, you've thought about the math, and it doesn't work out. All too often, we're just not thinking about the human being side of things. We're not thinking about the emotions involved in money. And just sometimes it is really challenging to master ourselves. And that's really what the podcast Money Therapy is about. It's about mastering ourselves, mastering our emotions, and mastering those non-financial, non-math side of things when it comes to our finances.
I think that's probably the biggest thing we are trying to convey. Is just when we run our own individual practices and as a team, we run into a lot of themes with clients. And like you said, it's that human side of things where, A plus B doesn't always equal C for everybody in every situation. And I often tell people myself that, sometimes kind of jokingly, I'll say I'm a, money personal trainer, or I'm a money therapist. Because a lot of times it's, this is what we're going to talk about today, is what's actually behind the money is more emotion and real life.
Yeah. So we hope that you enjoy it. We never intend for these to be too long. I want to just quickly introduce the idea of like our ecosystem and how we try to accomplish everything that we do. For those people that are like engaged in our ecosystem at a deeper level, there is an email that I send out every Sunday, and that email, I just call it the Sunday series. It's about a 60 to 120 second read.
Yeah.
It's not long.
Real quick.
It's kind of the concept of what we are going to talk about on our Tuesday podcast. So again, you get the email Sunday morning, read it real quick while you're having a cup of coffee, and hopefully that just gets the wheels turning. And because sometimes we're taught something, and when we're taught it without first trying to think about it on our own, we just absorb everything that we hear.
Yeah.
Right? We don't get to bring ourselves into the equation. And so by sending this email, kind of almost our show notes, by sending those out on Sunday, you get to say, okay, what are my thoughts?
Yeah.
How does this apply to me? So that way, when you listen to Bill and I speak about it on Tuesday, or whenever you get around to listen to the podcast, Money Therapy, you're hearing us talk about it at maybe a different level, or from a different vantage point, or at least we come to you with, one, financial knowledge, but two, with thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of sitting in front of people with these same similar problems. That's where these ideas come from.
Yeah.
So if you want to get into the ecosystem, go to harpethwealthpartners.com. Just subscribe, send me an email, or just reach out. I'm on social platforms, whatever you want to do. But all it's going to be is I'll just subscribe you to the email list. You'll start getting the email, the Sunday series.
Yeah. And I would encourage everybody to do that. One of my favorite things about the email is, it helps me kind of recalibrate for the week to come. Yeah. So even we as financial professionals get tied up in our lives. We get tied up in the weekend. And what's nice is that first email Sunday morning when I'm getting my cup of coffee going, it shoots some thoughts into my head. This week we're talking about, small changes, big results. And, again, it's a 2-minute read, and it gets you thinking about, what could I do this week in this instance? What could I do this week to make some small changes?
Boom. Great segue.
I've been working on it all week.
Segue. So with all that said, let's just really jump into the theme for this week. The topic, if you clicked on the title, you're probably seeing that we're talking about small changes leading to big results. Now, to introduce this, so a couple, maybe I don't even remember. I think it was like early summer or late spring. It was the tail end of season 1. So season 1, episode 28 of Money Therapy. So if you go down, just scroll down the list of episodes that we have. Again, back in season 1, episode 28, we had a podcast. The topic was micro actions.
Right.
And the whole theory, just to surmise this really quick, is it's one of my favorite episodes. I love that episode. I would definitely go listen to it if you haven't. Listen to it again if you have. But this idea is, instead of making a 180-degree change in my life, sometimes we need that, but it's very, very hard.
Yeah.
And usually when we're doing something like that, we have we have a professional helping us. So like, I think about this in terms of like people that struggle with addiction.
Sure.
They need to make a quick 180-degree turn, but
yeah,
they're going through a process with medical professionals, probably medication to assist them. Like there's a ton, there's a whole army of people helping with that.
Sure.
So why do we think that we can make a 180-degree turnaround on our own? It's almost impossible, and we're setting ourselves up for failure often, right?
Yeah.
So if we need to do something like that, we have to engage help. We have to engage support, probably from family and friends and professional networks and all kinds of things, right? So you can make a 180-degree change, but it's very, very challenging.
Yeah.
So instead, if we have goals and we know we need to course correct, maybe the better thing to do is to make a 1-degree change.
Yeah.
And then once we master that 1-degree change, do that again until we're on the right trajectory.
Yeah.
So again, season 1, episode 28, that is the micro action episode. It's focusing on the action side. This episode, we're going to focus on the result side.
Right.
Which is, this actually kind of like, it's still a hard practice for me. So like I'm writing this and I'm like, man, I have to like figure out how to put this into my calendar, what we're going to talk about today. So the idea here is that because of micro actions, like if I make a 1-degree change in my life,
yeah,
I'm probably not going to see like this huge result right away.
Right. In almost anything.
Anything, right? It's going to take time. It's probably going to take an additional degree change or adding more things.
Yeah.
But eventually I'm going to reach the big result I'm looking for.
Sure.
But the problem is sometimes if I'm doing this in a way to make a 1-degree change over time, I can oftentimes like if my, like, let's say my goal, and we're going to dive into this a little bit more, but my goal is to run a marathon.
Yeah.
If I try to go out and run a marathon today, I'm going to break.
Yeah.
Right? Not going to do it.
Or if you try to, okay, in 1 week, I'm gonna work 1 week and then go run a marathon.
Yeah,
you're gonna get hurt.
You're gonna get hurt.
Yeah.
So instead, what I might say is, hey, I'm gonna run, a mile, or I'm gonna run for 5 minutes, or I'm gonna move. I'm just gonna get off the couch and move a direction away from my couch for 10 minutes, and then I'm gonna come back.
Yeah.
It's the tiny things. But if we don't stop and smell the roses, right? If we don't stop and take inventory.
Yeah.
Along the way. If my goal is the marathon,
yeah,
and 6 months from now, I've been walking every day, and I'm like, man, I have not ran a marathon yet.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? I'm going to quit.
You're going to quit.
So instead, what we have to do is when we're applying the micro action principle,
yeah,
we expect, small changes along the way. We have to take inventory of the small changes and the small results and celebrate those.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're going to quit and we're never going to see how the small change can lead to that big goal, big results.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Perspective is super key. One of the things that just jumped into my head is kind of my own personal experience. I like to go on runs outside. And there's a greenway right by the house. And so I jump on that and go for a run. And what I've done in the last couple of years, but majority of my whole life I never did, was in the last couple of years, I give myself kind of a work back into it workout. I've been, I was a Division I athlete. I've been an athlete my whole life. And usually when I run about, 3 miles, maybe a little bit more,
Nice.
And so, but sometimes, like we've had a lot of company come in recently. We've done a lot of work on the house. And so I haven't had a chance, or I've been lazy about working out.
Yeah.
Right. And so I went out for a run the other day, and instead of going out and running 3 miles, I took a step back and I was like, I'm going to run 1.5 miles or 2 miles. I'm going to give myself a break. And maybe after that 2 mile run, I kind of feel down on myself maybe a little bit because I didn't run 3 miles, what I'm used to doing. And I feel like I'm taking a step back. But then when you look at the perspective and go, hey man, 3 years ago, my get back into it run was a 0.5 mile, not 2
right.
or 2.5. So I think that kind of goes along with it. You got to take inventory along the way, and people start where they're going to start, and if we're talking about physical exercise or anything like that, it's to take perspective on over a long period of time. Am I, if that's your goal to be more active, am I getting more active over time?
I had a buddy last year, I think it was like towards the end of the year last year, and he was really big on this, like I'm going to work out 1 minute of every day.
Yeah.
And inside of this 1 minute of everyday routine, his big thing was like, who doesn't have time for a 1 minute workout? So he'd do some push-ups, some air squats, and be done, 60 seconds.
Yeah.
And of course he didn't see like any kind of super impactful kind of outcomes from that. But what he did do is when he came and we were talking, he'd been doing this, I think, for like 2 months. And he's like, Brandon, like I've worked out every single day for 60 days in a row now. And he was super like excited about that. And that's the thing is like the result of him getting in shape was still so far away, but he got to stop, take inventory and celebrate the fact that that's the first time in his life he ever completed 60 workouts in a row.
Yeah.
And
which is
now,
that's really
fast
good.
forward to this point in this year, and he's down like 20 pounds.
Sure.
Dude's sleeping well, recovering well. Like, and now he's working out more than a minute a day. He's working out like 30 minutes a day. But he still hasn't missed a day because he created a habit. And sometimes that 1 degree shift doesn't get us to where we want to be.
Yeah.
But it's the start.
Yeah.
And you got to take inventory of those. The graph that I have is just kind of this like stairway to the big goal. Right. And you were sharing your story, and the word like plateau popped into my head.
Yeah.
And it's this idea that, we don't climb to our goal in a straight line.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're the Michael Jordan or the Tom Brady of athletes. If you're like, I know of stories, right? I know there's stories of like, even like I think of Tiger Woods, and him plateauing in his game and having to really figure out how to like overcome that. Mm-hmm. So, and like, it's not just sports; it's writer's block. That phrase exists because sometimes the greatest writers in the world just hit these periods of these points in life where they can't figure out the next sentence. Right? They're just stuck.
Right.
And so, like in this stairwell, I didn't think about this until you were talking, but it's like, hey, we also have to give space in our life for plateaus.
Yeah.
And not necessarily think that we're like, every plateau is not a step backwards.
That's what I was just thinking.
It's just a stalling point, and we have to accept the fact that that's going to happen in anything that we do, whether it's business, relationships, finances, our health. Like there are going to be times where we're making progress and then we just can't take that next step yet. We can't do the 1 degree shift just yet.
Yeah.
Or the 1 degree shift that we made wasn't necessarily the right one. It's not progressing us.
Yeah.
So part of that inventory process too is not just the fact that we're taking time to celebrate that we're one step closer, but we're also taking time to analyze the shifts that we're making to make sure that we're progressing towards
Sure.
the goal that we want, right?
Yeah.
Thoughts there?
Yeah, I had some notes from pre-show that one of the things in light of this plateauing and I think it's important to just reiterate that for a second. When you feel like you're plateauing or you're in a stall period, we could call it, reevaluate if you think you really are taking a step back or if it's just a plateau. And I would say try and learn that a plateau can be a really good thing, a good resting point. The one thing that I see in my practice a lot is, for whatever reason right now, I have a couple of different sets of clients that are either trying to start families or they're having babies like as we speak, right? And the procedure sometimes, depending on the person's situation, for a couple of them, it's, hey, let's press pause on all the different things we're doing, contributing to retirement or whatever it may be. Maybe the situation calls for us to just, press pause real quick, pile up some cash, make sure mama and baby come home, find, you may have more expensive medical bills that you're not expecting. Your situation's going to change drastically. So let's just let's get in a nice steady holding period for a second. And very, very often I'll have clients that say, when we're doing those things, that, Bill, I feel like I'm taking a step back, or they feel a sense of urgency to get back to contributing to that IRA or that 401k or whatever it may be. They want to press play on the plan that they were making progress on. Mm-hmm. They were seeing that momentum, they were seeing that progress, and now it feels like we're holding back a little bit. And it's really interesting to have that conversation, to reframe that conversation and say, listen, we are doing exactly what y'all need to be doing right now.
Yeah.
Especially for your situation. And, I've got X, Y, and Z reasons here that we've all talked about and we've really dug into. This is not a step back. Like, some people don't have the ability to do this in a way that we're doing it right now. This is a plateau. This is not a step back. You guys are exactly in the right place. And when the time is right, we'll continue that momentum.
And that's it speaks so much to the idea of being adaptable.
Yeah.
And understanding that's one of the reasons why we use that one page plan is, like, I know financial planners that put these big financial plans in a big leather bound book and they charge a lot of money for that. But by the time you walk out of the door, it's already old.
Yeah.
Your life changes so fast. So you have to have adaptability. And sometimes when we shift because of a circumstance,
yeah,
it does feel like we're stalling because our mind is still focused on the trajectory that we were on.
Sure.
It's just a different trajectory. It's not that we're stalling. It's just the glide path has changed a little bit. The direction has changed because life changed.
Yeah.
And that's super relevant.
Yeah. I always like to tell clients that, if we're doing our jobs correctly, you're going to have more options than you did 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. More options is a good place to start.
Love it. Let's make this about money for just a second. Right. Okay. So we're tying this specific thing into finances. Everybody that we come across is in a different situation, right? We come across people that have insanely large incomes. We have come across people that have barely any income.
Sure.
We have people that are starting life, that are towards the end of life. I had a client the other day. It's kind of funny. He said it as a joke, and it was amusing because that's the first time I ever heard it phrased this way. But he just said, "Brandon, at the end of the day, I'm closer to death than I am to my birth." And I was like, probably me too. Maybe, hopefully not just yet, but getting there. Makes you think, right? When things are put kind of humorously in different lights. But what I want to get at is understanding, like, the thing is nothing changes about the idea of micro action, and then that small change leads to, sometimes results that we don't observe easily, but if those small changes add up to big results, right?
Right.
In the sense of talking about specifics of money, I talk to a lot of people getting started. Like when we're first sitting down, it's like, hey, you're in a situation right now that even your emergency savings account is not appropriately funded.
Yeah.
So we need your emergency savings account to get to, whatever your situation demands.
Sure.
But let's, like, for example, if my emergency savings account needs to be at 20 grand,
Yeah.
right? If I make $20 an hour and I'm saving 10% of my income,
Yeah.
that means for me to get to 20 grand from zero, I have to go work for an hour. I have to take $2 out of that $20 I made and put it in my savings account. 20 grand divided by $2. That's a lot of micro actions.
It is.
And that, if I'm just like thinking about the 20 grand goal, I'm going to feel so defeated for so long.
Yeah.
Right. And the worst part about this is I have to, that part of the process, guys, like there's some people listening, there's some clients that we work with that have millions and millions of dollars in the bank.
Sure.
Right. They've worked hard and they've probably likely started at the same point at first working on that emergency savings account. The thing is like, we should all give like we should have a lot of empathy for the person working on that emergency savings because they're doing it all by themselves.
Sure.
What's the interest rate? What's the return on money inside of an emergency savings or in a savings account?
Yeah.
Close to zero, right?
Pretty
so
close.
That $20,000 is pretty much everything that I do. I'm not getting interest. I'm not getting, it's not there. So I have to work really, really hard for probably a good amount of time to accomplish that. However, once we switch gears, right, and now all of a sudden I'm putting money into an IRA or just any kind of investable account, or maybe I'm putting money into real estate, right? Now all of a sudden, if I put $2 into real estate, not only can I make income potentially from that, but also I'm putting it into an asset that grows as well. So now it's my $2 that I'm earning, it's income from my investment, and it's appreciation. So now I have a team of 3 contributing towards my net worth.
Yeah.
Right. So now I'm still giving the same amount. I'm still giving the same effort, the same micro action, but now my results are getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
Okay. So that whole story there is basically just to say that sometimes the work that you're doing may lead to small results, but later on or under different circumstances, the same effort could lead to bigger results, right? Yeah. So I just think that's important to get out there, that sometimes when we first start walking, when we run that first 100 meters of the mile, it's hard.
Yeah.
But once we get past, like once we get that baseline going, the same effort can lead to bigger results.
Yeah.
So I think it's just really, really important to understand, because I know a lot of people out there are probably listening to this, like struggling in some area. I don't care if you're working on building a legacy fund for your children or grandchildren. I don't care if you're, trying to figure out, okay, retirement's, 3 years away. Like, what are my final money moves in prep for leaving my job? Or you're launching a business, or you're having kids, or you're just getting started.
Yeah.
We're all facing something, and we need to learn and understand micro actions win. Micro actions lead to typically small results that we need to find and celebrate and analyze and figure out. But then we also need to step back and realize, hey, these tiny steps are getting me towards that big golden pie in the sky thing that I've been working on for a long time.
Yeah, and I would say, if anybody out there finds this conversation kind of interesting, a couple of books that I've read, and Brandon, I'm sure you've read them too, but a couple of books kind of on that to get you motivated. One's called Atomic Habits, and it's very similar to what we're talking about, which is adding little micro actions throughout your day to create habits. And then the other book is Compound Effect, and the Compound Effect will show you with mathematical examples, as well as, all kinds of different examples on how, to start gaining momentum is very, very hard. Think of a steam engine getting started. It takes a lot of energy. But once you get the train going down the tracks and you get that momentum build up, it's easier to keep going.
Yeah, and I will leave you with this. Like, we are all our own worst critics.
Yes.
I can't tell you how many times I've walked into a room and seen somebody for the first time in like 6 months and be like, man, you look phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, I haven't really noticed, but I have been putting a lot of work in the gym. Well, you look phenomenal.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and we don't notice because what the small changes that we go through become our new normal so quick.
Right.
So every day I stand up and I see myself in front of the mirror and I don't realize, like, that becomes my new normal.
Yeah.
I don't realize I'm actually like getting to a point where I'm losing like weight, or being at my target health. Right.
Sure.
All of it. But at the same time, if I walk into a room and you see me for the first time, you're like, Brandon, like, you've been going to the gym and great. Like, yeah, man, I just don't feel like because it's my normal, not yours. Right.
Right.
So we can be our own worst critics. We got to understand that small improvements are what gets us to our big goals. And as we keep making small improvements, they become normal. And then we keep making small improvements and then boom, massive impact, massive results.
Yeah.
Right.
And use that perspective to see which way you're going. Look back in time over a long period of time.
Yeah.
And that'll tell you which direction you're headed.
Take inventory, celebrate, analyze, and figure out what the next 1 degree change is. Anything else?
Sounds good.
Sweet.
We're
All
good.
right. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next week. And don't forget, harpethwealthpartners.com, or send me an email, bmc@harpethwealthpartners.com, and we can send you show notes for next week before our episode. Take care.
See you.
We hope you learned something valuable today. We appreciate you including us in your journey towards financial betterment. It is important to us that you know this is for educational purposes only and not to be considered specific advice for any individual listener. If something we discussed is relevant to you and you have questions about how it might be uniquely applicable to you, please discuss that with a financial professional, or, of course, we are happy to have further conversations with you about your specific questions, needs, or circumstances. We welcome you to reach out to us via our website, harpethwealthpartners.com, or by emailing Brandon at bmc@harpethwealthpartners.com. Securities are offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice is offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and Harpeth Wealth Partners are separate entities from LPL Financial. The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not to be intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult appropriate qualified professionals prior to making a decision. Investing includes risk, including fluctuating prices and loss of principal. No strategy assures success or protects against loss. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Hypothetical examples presented are not representative of any specific investments. Your results may vary. We want to thank you for your time, and we look forward to having you back next week.